good.
Yes.
All right, I would like to call to order this evening's regular meeting of the Monee Village Board of Trustees for October 13th at 6:33. If I could please ask Pastor Dave Fetties to come up from Family of Faith Church for our invocation.
Thank you, Mayor. We thank you, Father, that you are a good and loving God, that every good and perfect gift comes from you. We thank you for the beauty and the bounty of your creation. We thank you for opening the way of salvation and eternal life through our Lord Jesus Christ for all who trust him. And we thank you, Lord, that though you control all the galaxies and rule all things, you also pay attention to every detail of our lives. We thank you that right here in this room, you're present with us, that the affairs of another town meeting are of interest to you, that you care about each person here, that you care about this community and village. And so we come to you with our requests. We pray again for your blessing and protection and well-being for those who live in Monee. We thank you, Lord, for the healing you've brought to many who've been ill, and pray that you'll continue to give healing. We pray for your protection and for your help. We pray for those whose task it is to be protectors, for our first responders and our police officers. We ask that they may do their tasks well, and that you will in turn protect them from all harm and injury. We thank you for those who are entrusted with leading our village, for our mayor, for our trustees, for others who serve in administrative capacities. And we pray, Lord, that each one may have the wisdom that comes from you, a desire, Lord, to live by truth and by what is right and just and fair, and that this meeting tonight will be conducted according to those principles. We thank you for a land and a community where we as citizens can participate, live freely, make our voice heard, and we pray that those who are visiting the meeting tonight participate in various ways, can value that privilege and also express themselves well. So guide this meeting according to your perfect will and wisdom. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Here.
Trustee Horn. Trustee Razek. Trustee Rakes.
Present.
Trustee Wilson.
Present.
Trustee Udress.
Present.
All right, now open to the public agenda items only. If anybody has anything they would like to speak about, please come forward. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. May I please have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion, Mayor. I'll second.
Any discussion on that at all? Roll call, please.
Trustee Horn.
Yes.
Trustee Rakes.
Yes.
Trustee Wilson.
Yes.
Trustee Udress.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to move on to, Donicia's not here tonight, we're going to move on to the mayor's report. What I would like to do is ask for a consensus, please, to take the scheduled meetings from November, which would be the 10th and the 24th, and move that to the 17th. And then the December meetings are scheduled for the 8th and 22nd, and make that the 15th of December instead. So if I can have a motion for that, please.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion at all? 17th and the 15th. Can I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Rakes.
Yes.
Trustee Wilson.
Yes.
Trustee Udress.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Yes.
Trustee Horn.
Yes.
Thank you. Ruben, Administrator's report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. The first item under my report is to introduce Ken Chastain, Amy Wilson with Farnsworth Group, and this is a follow-up to a meeting we had a few weeks ago in reference to the Fireman's Park plan. in reference to the OSLAD grant and a multi-tiered plan to present to the board tonight. So without further ado, Mr. Chastain.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and trustees. Appreciate the chance to be here tonight. This is always one of the fun things that we get to do at Farnsworth Group. Outside of doing sewer plants and water systems and roads, we work a lot and have a passion about parks and rec. And so it's a pleasure to be here. And for me personally, it's fun because going back to a good part of the last decade, I've gotten to be involved a little bit in the planning and the discussions about Fireman's Park. And so it's exciting here because really what tonight is about the next steps. And most of you will recall, who have been on the board, is that last year we initiated a plan, a comprehensive plan, to really get a whole big holistic view of all of the parks in Monee and the rec programs. And under the leadership of Diana, we were able to work with you all, the stakeholders, and with the public, and we had a great opportunity to take a real good look at a high elevation, all the parks and rec in Monee. So tonight, though, is about what happens next, because in March, I believe, of this year, you all approved the comprehensive plan and adapted it, and it laid out a number of goals out there, and one of which is to be able to take a look at the priorities of the public. What are the main things that the public and the stakeholders and the leaders of the community like yourself thought were the priorities? So tonight we want to talk about some of those priorities, and it seems like we can all agree that Fireman's Park is a huge asset for this community. It's really the town center, and it's the natural place to start to talk about what's important about parks. And then the other thing we want to talk about is, how do we get these things done? How do we get them funded? And there are opportunities to get grant funding that we want to talk about tonight. So, that's really our agenda. We're going to just take a few minutes to do that. And I am grateful to have somebody with me. Amy Wilson was the project manager of the comp plan here. She's gotten to work really closely with Diana, and most of you have met her as well. So with that being said, Amy, I'd like for you to take off, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of what we want to talk about.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Again, like Ken said, I'm Amy Wilson. I have met some of you, have been before you, and some of you are new faces. And hello to everybody else that's behind me. I'm sorry that I have my back to you. I could probably turn a little bit here. I wanted to present to you tonight, talk about kind of build on what Ken was just saying. We passed the comprehensive Parks and Rec plan in March, and we outlined goals specifically for Fireman's Park. And then there are some other secondary goals as well that would happen simultaneous to Fireman's Park. But one of the things that we need to understand is that there is a program called OSLAD. It's a grant program that is funded by the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. And that is really one of the main reasons why we are going to continue with Fireman's Park, is because we have a funding source that we believe the village of Monee has the opportunity to successfully achieve funding for that. Part of the details of the OSLAD program, so OSLAD actually stands for Open Space Land Acquisition and Development Grant. They will provide a community up to $400,000. It's a matching grant, so it would be 50% of $800,000, which is what you do not have to send. You can send less than that, but you can also exceed that. But that is the maximum grant that they will provide to a community. The other thing that you need to know about OSLAD is that it is a highly competitive grant. As you know, funding sources are few and far between for recreation programs and parks and park improvements. And so there are a lot of submittals, and it is important. Each community is within a certain area of IDNR. There's a grant administrator, and we have had the opportunity earlier this year to speak with that grant administrator and really try to make for a successful application so that you have the highest chance of a successful project in receiving that grant. One of those things is that it is highly competitive is to have diversified recreational opportunities for your community, for your taxpayers, for your residents. Right now, Fireman's Park does that. It does have several different recreational components in it. but they're looking for communities to be able not only to improve those, but to expand those recreational improvements. So as many as 6 to 8, it's not to say there is a minimum, but the more opportunities that you are providing your community, the better potential success for receiving one of those grants. The other thing that I will mention to you is that the next round of grants is expected to come open in probably July. It did this year for fiscal year 22. It opened in July, and the deadline was September 1st. Those awards will be coming out, usually comes out between January and March of 2022. So what we would be looking is to complete the next steps and complete the process for Fireman's Park so that we can submit for fiscal year 23, which would be potentially July of 2022. And then we would receive funding hopefully in 2023. And then you have 2 years to complete construction, to complete design, engineering, and construction before you wrap up and you have an audit and we see success with the project. So, Ken, anything else you want to add to that?
No, I did. Any questions about the OSLAD grant from IDNR? Okay.
Okay. So, Fireman's Park. The reason why we are focusing on that is when we interviewed stakeholders through the comprehensive Parks and Rec plan process and also polled residents through an online survey, we got feedback that everyone is really happy with the location of Fireman's Park. It is an asset to the village. It's a place that brings the community together. One of the things that Parks and Rec is really strong with are special events, and that draws a lot of people not only from Monee but from adjacent communities. There's a great relationship that Diana has continued to procure with adjacent communities, that they don't overlap events. Everyone, Monee has their Fall Fest. It's one of those big things that draws people in, and there were some other fun opportunities prior to COVID that were really drawing people from all around. So it is a place where everyone can gather, and it's the place where you have a majority of your recreational programs happening for Parks and Rec. So we are looking to expand upon that. I wanted you to see that once we had, back in 2013, there was initial survey and topography done. It did not include the entire parcel of what we now consider Fireman's Park. So initially it was the Village Hall, it was the football field, the baseball field, the creamery, and the recreation building, as well as the playground that you see, but it now includes the piece adjacent to, you can see it's actually in the bottom left-hand corner of your screens, and then it also includes the detention parcel to the north here. So we have all of that now to consider and be utilized as part of Fireman's Park, and so we want to look at it as a whole and make sure it's functioning the way that it needs to, and if it's not, this is the time to propose those plans and improvements. And infrastructure is also a big portion of the improvements at Fireman's Park. So, priorities that were identified. So these are potential. These are things that we're considering based off of feedback that we received in the Parks and Rec Comprehensive Plan. So not in any specific order, except I will tell you the first one that came out from everyone is the football field drainage and grading improvements. We have known for many, many years that has been an issue. And that field itself is utilized for lots of recreational programs, not just football. It's utilized for soccer and recreational programs that Diana holds and festivals, and there's a lot of activity that happens in that field, and so we need to make sure that that field is a multi-purpose rectangular activity and sports field, that it functions, it stays dry, it drains, and we want to make sure, and that's where Ken and his team are going to be helpful in coming in to make sure that that gets done appropriately and that we have the capacity to hold the detention from that area. We have potentially looked at eliminating the softball field that's at the end zone of the football field because there is an overlap in the outfields, which makes it dangerous. Those two sports cannot happen simultaneously because of that. So we've talked about possibly eliminating that softball field, the mini field, and putting in additional recreational amenities, something that was desired of the community that you don't already have somewhere else. There are many suggestions that could go there. tennis courts, pickleball courts, basketball court, volleyball courts. Those were all things that have come out in those discussions. Reorienting the existing baseball field and building new dugouts and batting cages with lighting. Right now, I was just talking to Diana about this. There is an issue with drainage. It is essentially they're playing in a bowl. There's a lot of grading issues with that. And so by reorienting it as well, we're thinking about the potential to put in a new concessions and public restroom building that would be central both to the football field and to the creamery and to the baseball field and to whatever other amenity we think that might go next to out there by the Public Works building. The current concessions building, like I said, would be demolished and we would build a new centrally located one. That's a potential. And providing a paved multi-use pathway that would circulate throughout all of Fireman's Park that could be used for walking, running, biking. And it also provides the opportunity then that we could potentially have fitness stations for people of all ages. So that opens up another recreational opportunity. Last that we have, so ADA access throughout the park is important. One thing that I should mention is that OSLAD does not cover costs more than 10% for infrastructure. And sidewalks, ADA accessible sidewalks to the recreational amenities does count as infrastructure. And so typically not even our sidewalks usually are covered by that 10%. So ADA access is something that we need to pay attention to. There does need to be a single ADA access route to each recreational component that is considered accessible. Develop new and inclusive playground area. The playground area that's there is isolated out. We would like to move that so it's more centrally located, closer to parking, and it's safe for families and residents that are using it when they're coming to the park to use other recreational amenities. And then add more parking along potentially the west part of the property. So currently when there's a football game going on and there's other activities, parking fills up very quickly. And we want to make sure that if there are other things going on simultaneously in the park, or there's just residents that are coming and using the park if they're coming by vehicles, that there is enough parking to accommodate all of the recreational uses within the park. And then last but not least, picnic shelters and pavilions. There currently is one picnic shelter that is looking at being replaced currently in front of the recreation building, but we would like to provide additional opportunities for birthday parties or family gatherings or church gatherings or things like that elsewhere within the park.
So, just to sum up, these are all priorities that the public raised and that you all raised because you know it, and those of us like myself, when we've been to those festivals and if we have a lot of rain, we know about the issue about drainage, right? So the important thing to take away here is that a lot of the funding opportunities for recreation don't include that cost to improve the infrastructure of the property, you know, whether it's parking lots or the sidewalks or that underground drainage system that we need to talk about. So that's an important point to think in mind is that when you're looking at priorities and you're looking at your funding options, you know, how do we get those things done?
So we just want to walk you through the next steps to get all of this done. So first of all, I believe tonight you had for review in your packet, in your agenda, there was a proposal for an ADA assessment of all parks and recreation. So that is something that was identified in the comprehensive plan as a goal that needed to happen. That needs to happen whether or not there are any improvements. Quite frankly, we're kind of, Village of Monee is a little bit behind on that, but we want to make sure that each park and each recreational amenity that you currently have is accessible. And those are things that can be identified. We can create a transition plan and the costs associated with that. So those items individually can be incorporated into your regular budgets and maintenance. And so those can happen simultaneously in relation to everything else that's going on in the village. So those can be identified.
Right, and the ADA transition plan, there's three areas where communities like Monee need to think about ADA. On your buildings, you know, obviously you know that that's an important part, and for those communities that have a lot of buildings, they need to do those plans. And then there's your right-of-way, right? Your sidewalks, your access to the roads and the crosswalks and everything. But the parks are also an important area, and one of the important things is that this transition plan, if you have it on file, and you have somebody designated to oversee it on staff, it's a path forward for improvements that need to be made, and you can have that on file, and it really is a kind of a mitigation effort. Larry can tell you that there are people who actually, take action and file complaints because you're not compliant, and they look for ways to, create problems or raise money. So having that plan on file is really kind of a way to mitigate and defend yourself in the future as you work towards getting completely compliant. And that can take time, but it's a plan that can help you. So we really would urge the village board to consider allowing us to be able to do this transition plan for Fireman's Park, because that will play into whatever we do in the future to make sure we've got that compliance.
And I just would stress that the transition plan and ADA assessment is not just for Fireman's Park, it's for all of the parks and recreation spaces. It also includes the recreation building and the pavilion that's in front of that. It excludes the concessions building because we are proposing potentially replacing that, and it also excludes Village Hall. So this Village Hall area and Public Works building. So we will be looking at all other parks and recreation spaces, making sure that they have ADA access and identifying safety issues and hazards. The next recommended step is that we would ask that you allow us, through our second proposal that we submitted, to collect additional topographic survey information and data that for the areas that we didn't previously, were not able to gather. So we're talking about the additional parcel that was attained, and also the detention pond to the north, so that we have the full picture prior to studying it and checking watershed area and drainage and runoff.
Yeah, the key thing is that if we're gonna put in more impervious area like parking and sidewalks, we gotta make sure we can take care of that water. And there are strict codes that you all comply with Will County on stormwater management. So we wanna take a look at that additional information, take a look at the pond. Can we handle the additional parking, drainage in there? We look at the communities, the subdivisions to the north, look at what their impact is on it currently, and making sure that the pond, if it's maximized to be able to be efficient, if there's improvements that need to be done that. So that information is kind of recon, and we'll use that to then come back to the board and say, here's what we need to do to take care of all of these improvements we want to take up in the future.
And then the next step would be to take, once we've done the analyzing for the actual topo and the detention capacity, would be to create a master plan for Fireman's Park that is identifying each of those amenities that we talked about earlier, recreational amenities that are proposed components, and also the infrastructure that's required for that. And by identifying all of that, we're also going to be able to identify what infrastructure improvements actually are required, and then the costs for each of those items, so that we have real numbers, budget numbers, so that we can go out and we can secure funding, or we can line up funding in order to implement the plan and make it happen.
Yeah, so Amy, what's the difference between a comprehensive plan for all the parks and then a master plan for one specific park?
So the comprehensive plan, when we looked at it, is really a broad picture of what do you have, what's desired by all of the stakeholders, the community leaders, and the residents, and then what potentially should you be considering putting in each of these parks? What function do they serve? So is it a community park? Is it a neighborhood park? Is it an open space? Is it a sports complex? What function does it serve? And we could start to look at that and say, okay, I think that this is definitely, so Fireman's Park was identified as a community park, and a community park has recreational amenities that are destination amenities. So people are going to get in a car or a bike or walk and come to the community park, whereas a neighborhood park is meant to serve those that live like within a quarter of a mile of that. And so we identified that those are smaller recreational items like a playground or passive recreation. So you want to maintain those and have those, and also identified opportunities for future open space or locations where maybe additional open space or park space would be desirable for the residents of Monee. And then also, how do we pull people in from other communities to utilize recreational programs? A master plan is that next step. So we created a concept for each of the neighborhood parks, as well as Fireman's Park in the comp plan, and said, this is really how we think it should be laid out. Now we need to take a look. It's like the 30,000 level, now we're going down to 10,000 feet, and we're taking a look at it and starting to dial in on making the connections, identifying the actual components and where they're gonna go. How many parking spaces are we gonna have? So how many square feet of impervious surface? If we are going to have fitness stations and things that are going in, we need to consider the costs for the equipment, the costs for the play surfacing, where are those locations that's gonna go, how much paved asphalt path or concrete path are we gonna need for that? So we start to really identify those amenities and quantify them and put costs to those items.
Yep, and it would include a site plan. And
Yes.
it includes making sure that we're hearing from you about, okay, we were here, now we need to get down to here. What do we want to do with this space, this limited space we have? So part of that master plan would be a site plan, and we start putting the placemaking, everything in place. You know, where would additional, if you wanted a pickleball, or you wanted a splash pad, or if you wanted to expand the parking, where would that be? So that's really where we can put all that together, and that master plan really becomes the game book for the future, because if you wanted to break this down into stages and phases, because, you know, budgeting and, you know, limited resources, the master plan, we can lay that out. So it's built on that idea that we're gonna do this over 5 years or 6 or 7 years.
And the master plan is a tool that we will use to submit for the OSLAD grant application as well. So that is the site plan exhibit, Exhibit 3A, if you really care for the OSLAD grant application that goes with it. In conjunction with your comprehensive plan, we pull excerpts from the plan to show that the community has done its due diligence and there's been public input through the process, that you have a plan in place and that this is a goal that was identified. Here's our next step, here's our plan that we're putting in place, and this is the cost to implement this plan. So that would be, the OSLAD application would be the next step, and again, as we mentioned, we anticipated submitting that in 2022. One of the reasons why we're suggesting to get it all done now is that there are going to be infrastructure improvements needed, and we want to have the opportunity to get some of that done prior to potentially starting construction on other recreational amenities in 2023. So by having that done, which lots of communities and park districts will do that, you're ready to go the minute that it opens in July. Essentially, the only need that you would have once it opens is you would have to hold a public hearing, public open house, to present the OSLAD application, and you would then pass a resolution of authorization at that time. And we don't want to do that ahead of the game in case they change the forms and the applications, which they did this year. And I know that IDNR struggled a little bit because people were ready to go the year before when they didn't have it, and so they just took their 2021 application and submitted it, and they had to transfer everything over. So we don't want to cause them those issues, right? We want them to be our biggest cheerleader and be like, oh, they did everything the right way. So we would fill out the current application and have everything ready to go, the narrative, the plans, the documents, all of that. And then at the minute that it opens, we would transfer it over. We get scheduled for July to get in front of the public and get in front of you and make sure everybody's on the same page, and we'd be good to go, hopefully. And then the next step and the final step would be, you know, how do we fund this? How do we implement this? So we would need to budget for and prepare big documents for infrastructure improvements that were not covered by OSLAD. So that would be something, and that's really, Ken would take the lead on that for me.
Yes, so just from my experience being around the park for a while and working on it, the number one issue that we need to address is the drainage, and we're probably going to need to have a trunk sewer, storm sewer, that can collect water from the football field, the baseball field, and the parking area, the future parking area that you have gravelled out right now. Is that we need to be able to collect that water and get it out to the pond, hopefully, or add supplemental detention on the site to collect that water.
Which we did potentially identify in the comprehensive plan.
Right.
Further out from the outfield of the baseball field, there is potential space there to capture additional runoff if needed.
And one of the other things, one of the tools that we use for detention or water collection is volume control. We can do things under the ground, or we can put in green infrastructure to try to reduce the amount of water that's going in the pond. So those are the type of things we'll use. Once we do this recon, we're gonna come back to you. And we're gonna say, here's some ideas that we think will address this. Here's some cost estimates to get it done. And then we'll talk about how do we get it done, how do we get it funded. Whether we're looking at monies that you might have collected because of the virus and the COVID money that's come through the feds or through the state, or we look at Rebuild Illinois money, which will be coming down the pipe next year that can be used for infrastructure, or other places where we might be able to get a legislative mandate or earmark or prerogative from either the state or your federal, from Congressman Kelly. So these are the things we want to be looking at, is what can we do to find money. At Farnsworth Group, we have a whole grant writing department and team, so we love to help on those type of things. So getting those next steps in place so that we're competitive on the grant, and that we have the state seeing that the Village of Monee has invested money in this. They're very committed to it. That's what's going to improve your chances of winning that grant. So, questions?
Yes, this is your chance to
Questions?
give us feedback, ask us questions. Yes.
So, just remind me, and if you could just say it or not, that you were looking at removing that softball field. Is there somewhere then along down the line to relocate a field? Because we do have a lot of softball players in Money too, and I just want to make sure that they're taken care of to whether we have to move it across the
Right.
street or another part of town.
Right.
To make sure that we're
Sure.
moving or removing it.
Diana can speak to this too. If I understand it, the softball field that's out there is not it's for the youngest age groups, correct?
But they play on.
And correct,
I think they
but
do
at the
this.
size, based off of the size of that, I think that the current neighborhood parks, we would have to either acquire additional open space or utilize open space that the village owns to create a field in that location, but that's definitely something that we can look at, that Diana and I have not explored that yet. And it's not off the table that potentially that could be relocated somewhere within Fireman's Park. But the location where it's at, because the outfield overlaps with the football field, it has to be moved for that reason, because it's a safety issue.
And then the other one, and the ADA access to, and I will talk to you after the meeting to, just remind me, some of the neighborhood parks then too, so I want to talk to you.
Yes, okay.
The challenge is that you don't have many parks, right? So everything you do at Fireman's Park affects something else. It affects the baseball season or the football season. When can we start digging? Well, we gotta wait till after football. So that logistics part of it has always been a challenge, as Ruben knows, for the park.
And the last thing too, I obviously working in the park for over the years, I just making sure, and you said it yourself just now, and thank you for that, there's other things out there besides that we can,
Yes,
Yep.
definitely. Definitely. In fact, so you're right, trustee, that there's rarely that we have the spigot turning open like this. And it's possible in Washington, maybe even more money comes for infrastructure, water improvements, lead service line removals, all these things down the line. So if we don't take advantage of the spigot now, shame on us, right? Because when it turns off, it turns off.
If you would, Amy, would you just, I'm over here. If you would just, yeah, no problem. If you would just touch on what it takes to make a park ADA compliant.
Sure. So, the way that ADA reads, so the guidelines, is that you do not have to have every single recreational component be ADA. You have to have every recreational use a single use. So there's a percentage. So if you have 6 playgrounds, for example, that are all within Monee, not all of those need to be ADA accessible. You have to have 25% of them be ADA accessible. So they have to serve and be inclusive, and that's not just being able to get to the playground. It would be being able to mobilize within the playground and utilize the play equipment. So currently, each of the playgrounds that Monee does have, they are They are in pea gravel. Diana, we talked about this, we've identified that, which is considered an acceptable safety surface, but it makes it difficult for those in mobility devices to move once they are in and to transfer onto transfer stations. So the play equipments, they do have transfer stations. They are not all able to get in, but the depth of the gravel, the pea gravel, is also not where it needs to be as far as the fall zones and the fall heights. Pea gravel has a lower impact rating than does playground mulch or rubberized poured in place rubberized surfacing or the mats and other things. So you would need to bring up to code or bring and make accessible 25% of each thing. If you only have one baseball field in the Parks and Rec, under the Parks and Rec umbrella, that baseball field needs to be accessible. It means that it needs to be available for use by all, so of all abilities. So it's not necessarily a physical handicap that somebody thinks of. There's also other disabilities that are considered issues, so you have to make it so that it's accessible, and whether that there's different guidelines for each recreational use to make that accessible. So point A to point B, from handicap parking to the recreational component, there needs to be an accessible route, a single accessible route. Can it be a shared accessible route between, several uses? Yes. So if you had a concessions building and you had restrooms and you had a ball field and you have bleachers or stands for the football diamond, and you had a single route from handicap parking to that, and that fell within the longitude, like the transverse slope and 2% cross slope, and it's surface and it doesn't have any rise or fall greater than a 1/4 inch. Like, there's so many little things, but that would mean that all of those then are considered accessible route, and then how they're designed then for use would also need to be taken into consideration.
Right.
Does that?
Just to add, that point, that word transition, it's about from here to there. So basically, the transition plan is that we will do this, we will do this, we will do this, in certain goals and objectives, and you don't have to do it all at once. But there needs to be a plan, like, hey, this is our goal, and we're gonna actually have somebody in charge of saying, hey, let's work on that. So if you hire your consultant to put in sidewalks, to connect to the school, right? You want to make sure that they're compliant and that you're going to have that. So it's just really a game plan for that, and it does help that in the event of some sort of action against the village, that you have a game plan.
Does that answer Trustee Wilson?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for
Yeah.
taking that. There was a lot of information we gave out, probably maybe too much, but we really wanted you to get a feel and get up to date on it, because we are going to be talking hopefully a lot more about this in the coming weeks and months. So excited to be here and excited to be able to get the chance to do this, and hopefully we can get the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Amy. So as presented in this plan, Farnsworth Group has proposed to provide engineering, landscape architectural services for Fireman's Park, analyze existing park documents, perform additional topographic survey, report on stormwater management capacity, identify needed infrastructure and recreational improvements, prepare an opinion of probable construction costs, and provide OSLID grant writing assistance. Farnsworth Group has identified the scope of work based upon the following documents and communication: a September 29th, 2021 meeting with the village, the Monee Parks and Recreation Comprehensive Plan, which was adopted in March of 2021, site documents on record for Fireman's Park and its detention pond, and tonight's presentation. The basic fee, should the village board enter into an agreement with professional services with Farnsworth Group, the village would agree to the above services in the amount of $18,500.00 in accordance with the schedule of charges annually adopted by Farnsworth Group. Project expenses: additionally, the Village of Monee would agree to compensate Farnsworth Group for expenses based on time and material not to exceed $1,000 in accordance with their schedule charges annually adopted by Farnsworth Group. So the first board action request is a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the professional services contract with Farnsworth Group in the amount of $18,500.00.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Wilson.
Yes.
Trustee Udras.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Yes.
Trustee Horn.
Yes.
Trustee Rakis.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The second board action request is a motion to approve the payment of any project expenses not to exceed $1,000.00.
I'll make that motion.
I'll s-
Trustee Udras.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Yes.
Trustee Horn.
Yes.
Trustee Rakis.
Yes.
Trustee Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next item under my report is also in conjunction with the first proposal, and this is Project Services Agreement for Parks and Recreation, ADA Assessment and Transition Report. As discussed in Farnsworth Group's presentation, one of the items mentioned was the opportunity for the village to address ADA compliance throughout all of our park facilities. With Farnsworth Group's in-depth knowledge of our parks, we believe this would be a great benefit to help streamline an effective long-term plan to accomplish this important goal. Farnsworth Group proposes to provide services in the amount of $9,550.00. Included in your attachments, Farnsworth Group has presented a project services agreement for the board to consider, providing architectural services for the Parks and Recreation ADA assessment and transition report. The scope of services to be provided is as follows: to conduct an audit of Monee Parks and Recreation facilities to assess the current level of ADA compliance, which includes our 4 parks and their facilities, based on Illinois and federal ADA standards. Also, to develop a transition report to include a list of needs to make parks and facilities ADA accessible with estimated costs. So our board action request is a motion to authorize the mayor to sign professional services contract with Farnsworth Group for the ADA assessment and transition report in the amount of $9,550.00.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Yes.
Trustee Horn.
Yes.
Trustee Rakis.
Yes.
Trustee Wilson.
Yes.
Trustee Udras.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Okay, and Amy, thank you. Thank you. Next item under my report is the 2020 Monee roadway maintenance pay request number 4, which is a final request on job number 19-R018.04. The village has recently received the final payout request number 4 from Iroquois Paving Corporation for work completed on the reference project, which is associated with retention release. Robinson Engineering and village staff have reviewed this invoice in your attachments and determined that it is in substantial compliance with the plan and specifications. Robinson Engineering recommends that Iroquois Paving Corporation is entitled to payment of $65,611.75 as summarized below. Total earned to date is $1,312,235.07, less the previous payment, which was $1,246,623.32. Amount due this pay request, which is a final payout, is $65,611.75. The board action request is a motion to approve the final payout request, retention release to Iroquois Paving Corporation in the amount of $65,611.75.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Horn.
Yes.
Trustee Rakis.
Yes.
Trustee Wilson.
Yes.
Trustee Udras.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next item under my report is the 2021 Monee roadway service maintenance, drainage, and water main project This is pay request number 1, which is a partial payout on job number 21-R0614.04. The village has recently received payout request number 1 from Iroquois Paving Corporation for work completed on the reference project. Robinson Engineering and village staff have reviewed this invoice, which is in your attachment, and have determined that it is in substantial compliance with the plan specifications. Village staff and Robinson Engineering recommend that Iroquois Paving Corporation is entitled to payment in the amount of $310,605.31 as summarized below. Total earned to date is $345,117.02, less the 10% retention, which is $34,511.71, with a subtotal of $310,605.31, less a previous payment, which is $0.00. And the amount due this pay request is $310,605.31. The board action request is a motion to approve payout request number 1 to Iroquois Paving Corporation in the amount of $310,605.31.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Discussion? Larry, just if you don't mind, because this is, a rather large amount, and I know this is the first payout, for people maybe not following along from previous, can you explain just briefly how these payouts are obtained?
The payouts are obtained through a contract, and what happens is Jeff will take a look at it, Ruben will take a look at the payouts. It's determined the payout is justified, the payments made.
From tip agreements.
This one, I don't.
This was, I believe, an 80-20, so 80% and then 20% the village. Right. And just to remind the board, this is...
This is not 80-20.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I didn't see you back there. If you don't mind, then, can you?
Yep, this is corporate funds. The way that this particular
Okay.
contract is set up.
This does not involve a tip. It's just on the-
Under the corporate funds, thank you.
Just as a reminder, this is for storm sewer, Will Center, Main Street, Linden, Herbert, and Bradford Court, water main and storm sewer replacement.
Roll call.
Trustee Rakes,
Yes.
Trustee Wilson,
Yes.
Trustee Udras,
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Yes.
Trustee Horn.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The last item under my report is the EMA purchase of a Ford 450 4x4 pickup truck. The Emergency Management Agency Director has established a plan to address vehicle inventory needs by decommissioning high-mileage vehicles and rotating newer vehicles into their fleet. EMA has recently decommissioned one 2007 Ford Crown Victoria with over 100,000 miles, two 2007 Ford Expedition squads with each over 100,000 miles. Maintaining these squads have become costly and are not a viable option any longer, as it costs more to repair these squads than they're worth. The current fleet has two more older Crown Victoria squads that are also slated to be decommissioned due to high mileage and lack of roadworthiness. The EMA director has requested to purchase a new 21 Ford F450 4x4 pickup truck with the Roche Ford Truck Center. The vehicle would be utilized for heavy lifting, such as towing their command vehicle, heavy-duty generators, and other heavy-duty emergency equipment. The total purchase cost is $58,850.00. The purchase will not be part of the South Suburban Purchasing Co-op, and the bid process would have to be waived. Even though Roche Ford is a member of the South Suburban Purchasing Co-op, due to supply and demand, they are not honoring the municipal discount. Additionally, there are not enough like vehicles in the area available to get 3 bids. The earliest vehicle purchase order through the co-op program could possibly take place in the spring or summer of 2022, with a delivery date in the spring of 2023. Due to the upcoming winter season and immediate need for 4-wheel drive emergency vehicles, staff would recommend this purchase. And also, it should be noted that this cost has already been budgeted in EMA's budget for this fiscal year. So the first board action request is a motion to approve waiving the bid process.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Udress?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Regis?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next board action request is a motion to approve the EMA purchase of the 2021 Ford F-450 4x4 pickup truck in the amount of $58,850.00.
I'll
make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Udress?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Regis?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Mayor, that's the end of my report.
All right, thank you, Ruben. Moving on to the officials' reports, Public Works, Trustee Horn.
Good evening, everyone. Here's a few items of interest from our Department of Public Works. Road resurfacing is underway. The final surface layer should be completed in the Gorman Farms area tomorrow, weather permitting. Crews will then move on to the surface layer on Oak Road, beginning on Friday, the 15th, again, weather permitting. Curbs and sidewalks are being poured this week in Monee Estates, or some people know it as McCorkle subdivision. The milling of the old asphalt needs are slated to begin in this area on Monday, the 18th. Now, I do have some good news regarding Orchard Trail. And have you noticed the improvements in your neighborhood, Scott?
Absolutely.
Good. So the last few weeks have been significant, have seen significant progress in the restoration from the Orchard Trail gas main project. All affected driveway aprons have been replaced, and nearly all of the areas that required reseeding have been addressed. As of today, only 2 items from the village's punch list are still outstanding, which are these 2. Number 1, regrading and seeding of the ditch along Oak Road, south of Orchard Trail, and number 2, replacing of the curb and patching the asphalt in the road at Orchard Trail and Locust Place. To ensure completion before winter and to maintain the integrity of the road, the village is coordinating this repair and will seek reimbursement from NICOR and or Pipe Strong for that. So we are very pleased that things have been moving quickly in these last few weeks since our last board meeting. End of report.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation, Trustee Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. A few things tonight. Well, first of all, let me just say, too, that I know we haven't had a meeting since, so I just wanted to let everybody know, for those of us who were able to attend the IML conference a few weeks ago, again, it's a fabulous time for us to learn from, the things going on through the Illinois Municipal League, and we were able to attend some of these conferences, and I know several of us attended some of the same ones which directly affect our lives here in the village of Monee. The ones that we almost all got to go to was how to make the most of a TIF fund and streetscapes, and then we also had a couple sessions on police reform, which was the most spirited conversations that I've ever seen at the IML. So thanks to the village for all of us being able to attend those. Now, for Parks and Rec, we do, and for the, obviously Halloween is coming up a couple weeks from now. So October 31st, rain or shine, our trick-or-treat hours are once again going to be from 4 to 7 p.m. And don't forget, so there's a lot of things for Halloween. We're having our house decorating contest, and I've seen so many houses already decorated. So if you have already decorated and want to be part of the contest, so please go download the entry form and turn it back into Diana, because there's some really, really cute houses out there. And you have until the 20th of October to enter your home, and then the winners will be announced on October 28th, and there will be prizes. Halloween happenings coming up too. Everybody loves our Halloween happenings. It's going to be Friday 29th, October 29th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Fireman's Park. hay rides, bonfire, costume contest, free hot dogs, and our trunk or treat event and goodie bags for the first 200. So, and then, that being said, for our trunk or treat, I know 2 years ago, when last we had our trunk or treat, there was about a dozen cars that participated in that. And that's like trick or treating at cars, which was a blast for, you get to see the kids dressed up twice for Halloween. So, please, if you want to, dress your car up for Halloween and be a part of the trunk or treat as well. If you just want to register and just bring, candy to hand out to the kids that come, 534-8302 is Diana's direct line. Please call her and enter that as well. We've got some also fun classes that are going on now too. Don't forget our Taekwondo, our Muay Thai. There's a stuffed animal workshops coming up and a new 4-week critter class being held from Crosstown Classics. And if you've ever seen an exposition by Crosstown Exotics, there's some pretty interesting animals in there. And we're very excited to announce that our yoga instructors, both Maria and Sherry, are back. So we will start having yoga again very soon as well. End of report.
Thank you. Finance, Trustee Rakis.
Our preliminary audit field work was done on Monday, September 20th, 2021. The full audit will begin October 25th through November 5th. The village treasurer's report is due October 31st, 2021. The village treasurer and finance department are working together to publish the report in the local newspaper and file with Will County prior to that date. Full implementation of the BS&A software shall be completed by October 31st. Invoice Cloud, the village's new online payment partner, has gone live. Please visit the village's website and visit the Pay My Bill landing page to pay your water bills. Some of the new features include Apple Pay, Google Pay, PayPal, and Venmo payment options, ability to sign up for paperless billing and e-bill, pay by text, auto pay. As of September 30th, the village has completed 5 months of its budget. The expected general fund expense percentage should be 41% as of 9/30. The village has kept its actual expenses at 30.52%. End of report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Economic Development, Trustee Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Well, it is with much pleasure I would like to announce that the Village of Monee now has a new Economic Development Director sitting in the audience, Bill Barnes. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Barnes is aboard, and he hit the ground running, so he's already got his hands full. So expect businesses can expect him to reach out, and also I encourage everyone to get to know him. He's going to have some questions for you because he wants to find out what Village of Monee is all about. So we need your feedback, honestly. Just make sure to make it a point to have a conversation with Bill. Bill, if you can wave your hand and let him know what you think. Feedback is important and necessary to make change and necessary changes. And so please feel free to reach out. As you can contact Bill at his email address, B. Barnes, his first initial, B. Barnes, at villageofmonee.org. Second, as Trustee Gonzalez stated, that on the 108th Annual IML Conference took place on September 23rd through the 25th, downtown Chicago at the Hilton Hotel. I was fortunate enough to take time off work to make the event, and also the several other board members, including our mayor, which I appreciate the opportunity and thank you. Couple of talking points or takeaways from the board. There was tremendous information available. So right on time was one of the vendors out of Canada called Vortex, specialized in water parks. And yes, she's got the book. And just wonderful information, made contacts, and started the conversation piece going, so then that way when we do get ready to make these moves, that we're in the know and we have these reference points. So they had as simple as a pipe going archway with water falling to an elaborate 3-story water slide. So, I mean, it's really fill the dreams, build it and they will come, or whatever the imagination can hold. They can make it happen, or what we can afford also. So the second talking point or takeaway from the conference was a company called by the govapp.com. They actually interface municipalities' social media websites into one app. You could send out push notifications, alerts, however you want to work it, and it has everything interfaced into one app. So then it's a one-stop shop. It's pretty clean, neat, push button in this microwave society. We want it now. It gives it to you now. Will County is currently, the Sheriff's Department is currently utilizing it, so it's working out good for them. Something just to get us thinking about. I know I talked to Administrator Bautista and also Daryl, and they were already on this. So we're all thinking alike. It's just coming together and getting these getting it nailed down with the face and a name and a company. So looking forward to those moving forward with the village as the village moves forward. Also with Farnsworth and our plan for the comprehensive plan, along with as I was on the Parks and Recreation, working with the Parks and Rec comprehensive plan also. Well, let's get back to economic development. There was one business license application, Surf Shower Doors, that was issued. Talks with Seafried and Northern Builders are still in the making in reference commercial development on the west end of town. We're looking to remedy that. And like I said, feel free to reach out to myself or our Economic Development Director, Mr. Bill Barnes, who's going to, I feel, that's going to take us to the next level of where we need to be. So I have confidence in him. Get to know him, have a conversation with any one of us. Like I said, we need the feedback. One of the things doing the comprehensive plan was we've put our finger on the pulse of the community. We found out what our residents wanted. We found out what they didn't want. But that is necessary to go forward, to move forward, that we utilize our resources efficiently. So we're not just spinning our wheels or wasting time or money. So I just encourage everyone to give us some feedback. And we got big shoulders, we all have big shoulders here. So just let us know what direction and what type of activities or what kind of programs you want to see and what future do you want us to move in so that we can make it happen. So, and thank you, Farnsworth, also for your due diligence and hard work, getting us through the process of getting to this point where we're able to make those moves. Because it's almost like, it could be a dream or a reality. And I think that we're moving in the right direction with this board to get those dreams to become a reality. And it's happening right now. So I encourage the public to be a part of it, which they already had or have and are doing when we did the comprehensive plan, but it continues after that. We still need that feedback. We still need direction and the input. So enough said. End of report, Mayor.
Thank you. Building services, we don't have Romy here, do we? No. Come on up, Romy. Good. Thank you.
So I have answers if anybody has any questions on as far as the ordinances that we have, or I don't have a report. No.
Okay, public safety, trustee Udris.
Thank you, Mayor. I as well got to attend the IML conference this year, and along with everything that the other trustees have mentioned, wanted to add that, we got to got to sit in on a couple sessions for the police reform bill, which I'm sure is on a lot of people's minds. The first session that we attended was actually the legislators who wrote the reform package, explaining why they wrote it, the background that led up to that. Definitely some heated comments from people that were out there. I found the second session actually, a little bit more informative, in that second session was given by two members of the Illinois Chiefs of Police, the chief from Lamont and the chief from Harvey, I believe.
Hazelcrest.
Hazelcrest. They actually broke down what they're doing in terms of making sure that any parts of that legislation, number one, don't diminish the safety that we expect and deserve. Making sure that funding is in the right place for all of this. They did get a trailer bill passed for this, and they've assured us that that's just the beginning, that they were only focusing on the things that were coming up right away. They're still at the table, making sure that anything coming up in the future is going to be doable for smaller towns, is going to be affordable for smaller towns, and again, is going to maintain the safety that we need from and protect our police officers. When I came back and actually got to sit down with our chief, I was very pleased to find out that he's also been very actively involved with all of this, working with the Illinois Chiefs of Police, involved in meetings and all that. So rest assured for our town that we have representation at the table and moving forward in a safe manner. So I was very, very happy to hear that. And again, the vendors that were there, like we talked about with I think the Village app and the park stuff that we saw were probably the two biggest takeaways for me in what we can possibly do for our town. So, yeah, definitely in the short term, and even some in the long term. The Village app was fascinating in terms of putting people in much better control of what's going on and being informed for what's going on within the village. So, very exciting. So again, I thank for the opportunity to be able to do that. For my public safety report, first off, I'm happy to announce that the speed and radar sign has been purchased, and I appreciate everybody's support with that. Don't have information as to when we will actually have it yet, but it is in the process and on the way, so thank everybody. I'm also very pleased to congratulate two of our officers, new officers, Matthew Eberhardt and Clayton Ritter, both today graduated from the Police Academy in Decatur, and they will be reporting to their training officers in the next few days to start their training and become some of Monee's finest police officers. And lastly, Monee Police Department does continue to support all of our local colleges. One of the ways that they do this is by supporting internship programs. So we also want to welcome our latest Olivet student, Shaniqua. So if you see her in and about town, make sure that you say hello. Hopefully we'll have her at a board meeting soon to introduce her to everybody. So, end of report.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the attorney's report. Larry, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 6 items for the board's consideration. The first item is an update with respect to the redevelopment agreement, as Trustee Wilson indicated. Negotiations are ongoing. Northern representatives would like a vote on their proposal either later this month or early November. They have an anticipated closing with the two owners. The basics of the agreement, again, is they would build 3 buildings. We called it on the east side of I-57. The payments would only be based upon occupancy, which they agreed to. They did agree to use their best efforts not to build a spec building. They cannot guarantee it, but they'll use their best commercial efforts. Our pledge of our increment would be 75%. It's in a TIF district. The one that's extremely important, as Heidi indicated before, there is no general obligation behind these payments is strictly based on revenue generated from that site, the incremental real estate revenue. They intend to build 3 buildings ranging from 249,000 square feet to 381,000 square feet. Their TIF costs range between $5.4 million to $3.8 million. The total project costs range between $36 million, $22 million, and $23, which basically means there's a percentage of TIF costs going back to them of the total cost of 15%, 18%, and 16%. They will probably appear before one of the upcoming meetings to ask the board our feelings about this TIF agreement. The one thing, too, that's good news from our standpoint, I know Ruben and Jeff worked on it, Aqua is taking steps to enlarge their, what they call facilities planning area out there, which is extremely important, I believe, on both sides of I-57. That's extremely important to get the water and sewer. It helps development, but they have worked well with the staff. Any questions on the Northern Agreement? Again, they will probably come, I'm assuming, either next board meeting or November, one of the two. The next agreement, and by the way, we are still looking at the infrastructure cost with respect to the Northern project, just to make sure we cross the Ts and dot the Is. The next update would be, Mayor and Board, deals with Seafried Industrial Properties. This is the proposed project on Ridgeland Avenue. Their proposed agreement's almost identical to Northern, 75% pledge. There is no GO, general obligation, behind. It's a TIF note. So if the increment comes in, we'll pay them 75%. If it doesn't come in, there is no obligation from the village. So that's extremely important. The one different element with their agreement deals with the traffic study. We have asked for a traffic study pertaining to obviously the traffic generated from their facility, and Monee Manhattan Road and Ridgeland. I believe they have engaged a consultant to conduct a study, and I believe Ruben and Jeff will also take a look at that. That study's not completed yet. We don't know how much traffic will be generated from the site. In our agreement, I did ask that they use their best efforts to divert traffic to Stunkel Interchange. They haven't committed to that, but they did engage a consultant. And the same situation is that their payments will only be due upon occupancy. So if they get 50% occupied, 50% of the payment goes to them. Of their revenue just from that site. Same thing with Northern. So again, there's no general obligation from the village. We just, like we do now, the TIF payment comes in, we pay out as long as they produce evidence of a payment of the tax bill. They're not seeking a vote yet, but they will be, I think, pretty soon. But without that traffic study, it's hard to say yes or no to the agreement, I think.
How big was that building?
Roughly about 700,000 square feet. And they did say possibility of subdividing it, like 200 to 500 per, depends on who would be the user. They haven't said who the user would be. It would probably, they didn't make the pledge about a spec building, but we did say we would like to, know who it is as soon as they possibly can. But they will, again, I think, address the board fairly soon, maybe late October, early November. I know Mr. Henny is here today from LFI, just to probably gauge the board's interest, but they will be pursuing a board vote on it fairly soon. Any questions on that? By the way, no interest on the note. So, there's not, some other notes we've been paying 8-9% interest. And this one, no interest. So it's a pay-as-you-go TIF. The third item, Mayor, is, I believe is in the board packet, an ordinance amending Title III, Chapter 1, Section 7 of the Village Code. Pardon me? I know, that's why I mentioned it. Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on this?
Romy, now do you want to tell us about this? Just give us a summary.
I was waiting for my cue.
That was your cue.
Which one? Is this the one with the fees or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the current fee is, it's a 3-line item currently, or 3 brackets. We expanded, license fee includes the business license itself and the physical inspection. So for example, Amazon is a large building, it's gonna take more time. So that's the reason for the expansion for the fees.
And this is changing now because it's
It's
just
outdated, and it's, I think the 3rd-line item would be 1,500 square feet, that's 125 up to
whenever, yeah.
whatever.
We have a motion and a second?
Any other questions? Do we have a motion and a second? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Rakes?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Udress?
Yes.
Ordinance number 1990.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item is an ordinance amending Title 11, Chapter 6, Section 1 of the Village Code. It's up for the board's review and consideration.
All right, Romy, you're on.
Okay, help me out here. Is this the one with the pool, or?
The fe-
Okay, so as far as the pool, we do have an ordinance. We just want to add 10 feet away from the principal residence.
Yeah, okay.
Just a minute, Romy. We need a motion first before discussion. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, so we do have an ordinance on how many feet from the rear lot line and the sideline. We don't have one from
That's
the
ordinance.
principal residence. And we have requests as close as 2 feet from the house, and that poses a problem, safety. National standards require the pool to be at least 10 feet away from the house. This is so protect from electrical wiring, from leaks, floods. If the pool breaks, you're gonna have water coming to your house, and such, for safety.
Any other questions of Romy?
So anything closer, if they wanted 8 feet, let's say, they'd have to get an ordinance, right? I'm sorry,
variance.
Variance.
That would be a variance.
Okay.
Yes.
And so then the ones who might be closer than that now are just grandfathered in, or how are we handling
Right, we're not
that?
gonna go to house and tell them to take the pool down, no.
Why not? No, I'm teasing.
No, I don't mean that in this.
No, I know.
Any other discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Rakes?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Udress?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Ordinance number 1991.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The last ordinance is an ordinance amending Title 11, Chapter 6, Section 7 of the Village Code. It is up before the board's review and consideration.
Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Romy? Who's next, Mike? Any discussion? Yeah. No.
Okay, so this is just to add no back-to-back fences to the existing. Some people want to put up their own fence, even though you have the neighbor's fence on the side and the back. Some people want to add, so now you got to move the fence. If you do want to install one, there's going to be space in between the fences. It's hard to maintain, and some may not want to maintain it. Now, there's no way to, vegetation overgrowth, so that's the reason.
Any other questions?
Have you seen this be a problem already? Have you noticed it?
I've noticed in a few spots, yes.
As our, right now, the village is in, I don't want to say forced, is maintaining the space between them?
No, we ask the
What are the-
residents to, be courteous enough to maintain the space.
What if, let's say, the property owner decides to bring it, well, creates that space, decides to bring it in 4 feet, or
Mhm.
let's say 3 feet. The neighbor decides they want it up to their property line. Would that be okay, or would it be creating that space?
So the current ordinance says that the fence has to be on the lot line. And some residents ask, hey, if I put my own fence, I'll maintain it. And that would be fine, because they have that drive to maintain, the entire property. But now if they move, somebody else moves in, they'll say, oh, that's not part of my deal. So now we can create a problem.
So I guess the only problem would be if the homeowner that wants the new fence wants a different kind than the one that's on the current.
Yeah, we get that too. I want to put out my fence, it's got to be white, it's got to have, spots or whatever the case may be. They want to put their own, like, my neighbors have, the one in the back has a chain link fence, the one on the side has a vinyl, and this one is a wood. I don't have a problem with it. But
What, like, say if you had a resident that had a 4-foot picket fence and then a 6-foot privacy fence, that
right
would.
next to each other?
Yeah.
So the only reason for this is just the maintaining in between the fences. Because there's so much space, you can't put a lawnmower unless they want to bring it so far in, and they don't want to lose their space because they want to keep as much yard as possible.
So this will actually have neighbors needing to talk to one another if they.
Right, but neighbors move and other people move in and they have different ideas.
Can I suggest tabling it until we get a little more research into this as a board? I don't want us to rush into this.
So who made the motion?
I agree.
Whoever made the motion had to rescind the motion, and then the
I
motion.
think I did. I'll rescind that.
Okay. All right, can I have
We need a second to table.
right, a second? So
Okay.
Heidi's the first to table. Can I have a s-
Then you want to.
Oh, Mike wants to table it, so yeah, can I have a second for tabling?
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Regis?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Udras?
Yes.
Okay, Romy's gone.
Thank you, Mayor. And the last item is approval of an IGA for the purpose of the joint acquisition of Celebrite UFED4 PC Ultimate Software. I believe we talked this at the last meeting with Chief Kerner. Now that our name is in the IGA, you're authorizing the mayor to execute the same on behalf of the village of Monee.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that?
Can we just review what that is, at least, if not for the public, but for us as well? Who can speak on that?
I believe it was for the cell phone, that we were able to use cell phone
Yeah.
information with the different village, I think Stager and Crete. And I know, Chief, the costs are split a third between ourselves and the other villages, and I believe Chief Kerner said it's probably long overdue that we have that.
And to
Yeah.
unlock the information, is that what it is?
Right, and this is to help with investigations where currently we're sending phones over to Joliet. That could take, 9 months plus to get taken care of. This will allow us to do it basically in-house. It does require some training with some of the officers, but a very valuable tool.
Okay, thank you.
The largest part of that cost is the software. That's why a lot of municipalities go in, partner up because of the cost of and also to be in the program, there's an annual fee and plus for the updates in the software. So, but it is a viable tool, and I'm glad to see that we're a part of it.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Rakes?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Udras?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Any old business? Open to any new business? Okay, open to the public, non-agenda items. If anybody has any comments, please come to the podium.
Can,
I know it's late night, so
Hi.
thank you, appreciate the opportunity. Can you hear me? Should I take?
You can take that out, please, thank you.
We appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm Mary Brockmiller. I live at 25633 South Purple. My friend Dan Moore, who's from Park Forest, and one of our pastimes is walking in the village. And I'm here to raise an issue of awareness, not complaint, because what started as a part-time pastime is turned into almost a full-time job as we take our walks, and that is picking up litter on the street. We used to just pick up pieces here and there. Last night, I'm bringing show and tell, we picked up this much litter just in an hour walking the street. And you might say, oh, once a week. Over the weekend, we had the same amount. And it happens over and over again. So, there's some hot spots that we call in the village, that we point out in the village. One is near the cut. They cut the fence that's right there. A lot of people, there's a lot of trash on both sides of the fence. I know the IC has the property. The rail, the metro, whatever you want to call it, the rail system. They own part of that property, but it really impacts us because people just feel very free to just throw things over that fence. Near the post office, it's gotten better, but with the post office box, the mail drops are, sometimes there's a lot of trash on the opposite side of that. And also Fireman's Park, it's great to talk about what we're going to do at the park, but the more public that has access to it, it seems the more trash that gets left behind. So the last item would just be garbage collection. A lot of times there's excess garbage over the cans. After garbage day, there's a lot more trash that's in the park. I used to work in a national park for a summer, so it's near and dear to my heart. So that's why I'm bringing this up. And what I'm just asking is maybe for the village to help on awareness. It could be signage, friendly signage, not things that say, you litter, $500 fine, but just say keep Monee clean, to promote pride and keeping our village clean. And one of the goals of the new Fireman's Park, keep the park clean, So I think that's what I'd like to say is thank you for listening, and anything you can do to help or have ideas in that regard would be great.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much.
Just much in one night, but we go out 3 or 4 nights a week, and we'll get, a plastic bag full just about every night.
No, thank you very
Well,
much.
I would
No.
like,
Can I ask you, with Fireman's Park, do you think there's enough trash receptacles, or?
Oh, there's a ton.
Okay,
No,
so that's not the
those
issue.
are
It's just,
Just the one in the playground.
okay.
Oh, if you count the ones by the pavilion,
By the playground area?
well, there's one by the playground, but do you count the ones,
Oh,
the
yeah.
receptacles by the pavilion, are those more recycling?
Those just, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of, in Fireman's Park, there's a.
So just people not utilizing it?
Yeah, I just,
Yeah,
Okay.
well,
I think the thing with litter is it can go unnoticed. It's really invisible until you pay attention to it. I think ask each of you as you go home tonight or during the week, just notice what's out there. And
No.
you'll notice, and when you start looking for it, you'll find it.
Oh, sometimes it finds you in the middle of the road.
I know, I'm like,
No, my wife is brought up that Wilsoner Road, especially on the weekend, it seems like White Castle bags and every other fast food stuff is in the roadway.
Right.
And not all the time am I going to get out and pick it up, but sometimes it bothers me so much that I
You do.
remove it because you don't, and that little buffer between us and UP, people like to dump TVs and things, it just, it baffles me. I mean, we have a free facility in Will County at Peatone, just down the street, not even 5 minutes, where you could take your electronics and have it recycled. And it's an awesome program, just was there last week. And people won't take the time to Google that or find out where they can take it. Yes, our trash it was the Republic, charges, but there's free programs through Will County. It just takes a couple of seconds to Google, and you'll get the address, and you could be right there. It baffles me that people will share what they don't want with the rest of the world, so I get it. Thank you, and thank you for, I know you've helped also with the different programs that we've had here, and that's something that maybe we can get you the champion here, so, but no.
Birthday was great.
Yes,
Sponsor
yes.
Birthday, we had a
And-
cleanup day, maybe doing that more frequently, maybe having groups sponsor a street to keep it clean.
Yes.
I think it really is just, it has to become a part of the DNA of the village, to keep it clean. And
Yeah.
that's just, then you don't think about it. You know?
No, I
And
agree.
think we love our community, and you're doing so much. I love to hear what's happening, and I would just ask that we make keeping it clean a part of that.
Definitely, because Earth Day actually exposed that section of rail that looked like it had been just dumped on for years. I mean, so we filled up that vehicle, that couple pickup trucks full of trash. So that was, yeah, that's something that needs to be addressed on a whole.
So thank you very much, I appreciate it.
And you mentioned softball. I remember when I played softball, it seemed like 40 years ago. At the beginning of the year, they would have like a manager's meeting, and they would just go over all the ground rules. Well, do they do that here with the people, the organizations that use the park, like football teams, softball teams, where you could say, hey, try to make an effort to pick up after yourselves, players, parents,
That's why,
everybody?
there's a contract. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Can
anybody
I-
else?
Just one,
Yep.
couple things too. I just wanted to, for Monee Women's Club, I just wanted to make a couple announcements too. Our next meeting is on next Monday evening. So for those of you who, for the ladies women of Monee who haven't been to a meeting yet, I encourage you to be at Frankie's at 7 PM. And then we also have a vendor fair coming up, which will be held at Bryan's on October 30th. It's going to be an in-person and a virtual fair for the week. So if you know of anybody, if you are a vendor, or if you know of a vendor, to please get in touch with us on our Monee Women's Club Facebook page, and we'd love to have you. And we also have, coming up very quickly, a poinsettia sale too. So as we did last year, we sell our spring flowers, and then we just finished our fall mums, and we're going to do poinsettias again this year. And if you've ever seen the Monee Women's Club flowers, they are beautiful. So I encourage all of you to please participate in that too. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Anything else? All right, can I please have a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion?
I second it.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Wilson.
Yes.
Trustee Udress.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Yes.
Trustee Horn.
Yes.
Trustee Rakes.
Yes.
Thank you.